It begins not with a jungle, but with a question, a restlessness in the soul. I was a young man at Wheaton College, my future stretching before me like an uncharted map. And on that map, one region was shrouded in mist, yet it called to me with an undeniable pull. Ecuador, a land of mountains, and deeper still, a rainforest that held tribes untouched by the modern world, untouched by the story of God's love. The world called them savages. The Quechuas called them Aucas, a word dripping with fear. We would come to know them as the Waorani. My journal from that time was filled with prayers, with a single consuming desire to be used by God completely and without reservation. That desire led me to Quito, and then to Shandia, a mission station carved from the jungle's edge. It was there I met Pete Fleming. Pete was a scholar, a man of quiet depth and brilliant mind. We were different, he and I, yet we shared the same fire.
Jim, look at this. The linguistic complexities in the Quechua dialects are staggering. Every verb tense carries with it a sense of the speaker's certainty. Imagine trying to translate the concept of faith into a language that demands empirical proof in its very grammar.
It's a challenge, Pete. But isn't that why we're here? To build a bridge of words so that the word can cross over. Our team was a study in contrasts, a collection of personalities woven together by a single, unwavering purpose. Ed McCully was the first to join us in Ecuador, a man who seemed larger than life, not just in stature, but in spirit. He had been the class president at Wheaton, a national debate champion. He was on a path to a lucrative law career when he felt the call to the mission field. He gave it all up without a second thought. Soon, our small band grew. Ed McCully, a man whose presence filled any room, a former football star and orator who had given up a promising law career. He arrived with his family, his laughter echoing through the station, a testament to a life joyfully surrendered. Then there was Roger Youderian, a quiet, seasoned missionary who had already known hardship in the jungle, a man of immense courage and gentle spirit. And finally, there was Nate Saint, our wings. Nate was a pilot of extraordinary skill and ingenuity, a man who saw the sky not as a barrier, but as a highway into the heart of the jungle.
Fellas, I've been working on something. A way to lower a bucket from the plane on a line, controlled from the cockpit. We can fly in a tight circle, lower a gift, and keep it almost stationary for someone on the ground to retrieve. No need for a risky parachute drop that could get lost in the canopy. We can deliver things with pinpoint accuracy.
A bucket drop? Nate, you're a genius. That could be the key. A way to make contact without setting foot on the ground. A gesture of friendship from the sky.
Our greatest breakthrough came in the form of a young woman named Dayuma. She was Waorani, having fled her tribe years before after a violent clan dispute. She lived in fear, but she held the key we so desperately needed, her language. For months, Pete and I sat with her, patiently, painstakingly learning the sounds, the phrases. Each word was a step deeper into their world. We learned about their culture, their fears, and their history, a story written in the blood of intertribal warfare. It was a daunting picture, but it only strengthened our resolve. With Nate's invention and Dayuma's words, a plan began to form. We called it Operation Auca. It was simple in concept, audacious in execution. We would find their settlement from the air. We would use Nate's bucket drop to deliver gifts, and over a loudspeaker we would call out phrases of peace in their own tongue. We would build trust, slowly, carefully, from the sky.
It's a tremendous risk, you know. They're known to kill any outsiders on sight. No exceptions.
That's why we start from the air, Raj. We won't be a threat. We'll be a curiosity. A friendly noise from the sky, the woodpecker, that's what we'll call the plane. They won't have a word for it.
And we won't go in armed for a fight. If we have to land, we'll take pistols, yes, but only to scare away animals, or as a last resort to fire a warning shot, not to harm them. We cannot come offering eternal life with a weapon in our hand meant to take their mortal one. We all have to agree on that.
Agreed. We go in peace or we don't go at all.
And so it began. Every week, Nate would fly his little yellow Piper plane over the vast green canopy. For weeks, we saw nothing, just the endless, suffocating jungle. The anticipation was a physical weight. We prayed, we planned, we waited. Then, one afternoon in September of 1955, a thin wisp of smoke, a clearing, thatched roofs. We had found them.
There they are, 3 o'clock. I see the clearing. Ed, get the bucket ready. This is it.
The excitement in that cockpit was electric. As Nate circled, Ed lowered a machete wrapped in bright cloth. We watched, breathless, as tiny figures emerged from the huts, pointing up at us. They were hesitant but curious. The gift landed softly in the clearing. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, a man ran out, grabbed it, and held it aloft. A cheer went up in our little plane that surely rivaled the engine's roar. Week after week, the ritual continued. We dropped aluminum kettles, buttons, shirts. And then something changed. They began to give back. They tied a woven headband, a feathered crown, even a cooked parrot to the line for us to retrieve. It was a dialogue, a friendship being built across a gulf of culture and fear. The hope in our hearts grew into a quiet confidence. We saw them waving from below. We knew the time was coming to meet them face to face. We identified a long, sandy beach on the Kurai River, perfect for a landing strip. We called it Palm Beach.
The tide of events is carrying us on. I feel like we're just passengers on a journey God Himself is navigating. Are we ready for this?
Are we ever truly ready, Pete? We've done all we can. We've prayed, we've studied, we've planned. The rest is faith. We go, trusting that He who called us will go before us. On January 3rd, 1956, the day arrived. Nate flew us in, one by one, landing skillfully on the sandbar. The air was thick with humidity and the unknown. We were 5 men, alone, in a world that had existed without us for millennia. We set up camp, building a small treehouse as a precaution, and waited. The river flowed silently by. The jungle watched. Every snap of a twig, every cry of a bird sent a jolt through us. For 2 days, nothing. We began to wonder if we had miscalculated. Then on the 3rd day, a sound, a voice from across the river, and then we saw them. A man, an older woman, and a teenage girl. They stood on the opposite bank, watching us.
Don't move, everyone. Let's not spook them. Jim, try one of the phrases.
My heart was pounding in my chest. I took a breath and shouted across the water the words we had practiced so many times. Biti, miti, punimupa. I am your friend. The man shouted something back. He seemed excited, not angry. He motioned for us to come over. Instead, I waded into the river, holding a small gift, a model plane. I offered it to him. He accepted, and after a long moment, they crossed the river to our beach. The first contact. There are no words to describe the feeling. Their dark eyes scanned everything, their bare feet silent on the sand. They were small, muscular, and utterly captivated by us, as we were by them. We shared lemonade and hamburgers. We communicated with smiles and gestures. The young man, whom we nicknamed George, was fascinated by everything. He chattered endlessly. We couldn't understand his words, but we understood his spirit. It was one of pure, unadulterated curiosity.
Hey, Jim, I have an idea. A crazy one. I'm going to take him for a ride, show him his world from our point of view.
Nate, are you sure?
It's the ultimate gesture of trust. Look at him. He's not afraid.
And he wasn't. George eagerly climbed into the plane. As Nate flew circles over their village, we could hear his shouts of glee from the ground. When they landed, he was a changed man, bursting with stories to tell. The day was a success beyond our wildest dreams. As they left that evening, promising to return with more of their people, we were filled with an overwhelming sense of hope. We felt we were on the cusp of a great breakthrough. But the next day, they did not come, nor the day after. A quiet tension began to replace our elation. The jungle, which had felt so full of promise, now seemed to hold its breath. We maintained our routine, calling out friendly messages over the loudspeaker, keeping our vigil. We talked of our wives, our children. We prayed together, our voices a small comfort against the immense silence.
Do you think something's wrong? Maybe we offended them somehow.
Or maybe they're just talking it over. This is as new for them as it is for us. We have to be patient. We have to trust the Lord's timing.
On Sunday, January 8th, we gathered for a small worship service. We sang, "We Rest on Thee, our shield and our defender," our voices carrying over the river. There was a sense of peace, a recommitment to our purpose, whatever the outcome. It was shortly after our service that Nate, scanning the jungle from the top of the treehouse, saw something.
They're coming! I see them! A group of 10, no, maybe more. All men. They're on the other side of the river.
A jolt of adrenaline shot through me. This was it. This was the delegation we had been waiting for. But as they drew closer, a small detail pricked at my mind. No women, no children. In Auca culture, a peaceful party always included families. This was a war party.
Stay calm. Let's not show any fear. Greet them as friends. Where's George? I don't see George.
Their faces were painted. Their expressions were not of curiosity, but of a grim, unreadable resolve. We stood on the beach, unarmed, calling out the few friendly words we knew. Nate ran to the plane to radio his wife Marge. He knew, I think, what was coming. Pete and I walked toward the river to greet them. I had my pistol holstered at my side. I saw the spears, long hardwood shafts glinting in the sun. My mind raced. We had agreed we would not defend our lives at the cost of theirs. Firing a gun now would destroy everything, vindicate their fears of outsiders, and close this door forever. My purpose was not to save my life, but to offer it. They raised their arms. A war cry, sharp and sudden, shattered the jungle's quiet. I saw a spear arc through the air, aimed at Roger. Time seemed to slow. I saw Ed go down. I saw Nate, by his plane, reaching not for his gun, but for the radio microphone. I saw the faces of my friends, my brothers. There was no panic, only a profound, final sense of purpose. My hand was on my gun, but I did not draw it to fire. To what end? To purchase a few more minutes of a life I had already given away? The first spear struck me, a searing pain, and then a strange and overwhelming peace. The sand felt cool beneath me. The sound of the river, the shouts, it all began to fade. My last thoughts were of my wife, Elizabeth, and my daughter, Valerie, and of the Lord, whom I was about to see. The jungle canopy above me looked like the stained glass of a cathedral. I had not come here to die. I had come here to live. And this was the gate into a splendor I had only read about. My life was not being taken, it was being received. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose.